Naming a list, data validation. Picking items from a list is a quick and easy way to select the items you want to take off. A database containing a list of options can be entered into an Excel spreadsheet as a list. So we take a fresh spreadsheet and then we enter the items that we want to add to the list. The database can be entered into any worksheet of the workbook. You will need to name your list of materials. And how do we do that? To name the list, first we select the list that we have created. So here it is B7 to B12 and then we create a list. And to name the list, we go to the upper left of the screen in the name box, type the name for the selected cells. For example, we type EXT door list. It's a good practice not to allow any space in between the names so that it's better not to have any space in the name of the list. Now press the enter button. Now whenever you select EXT door list from the drop down name box, when we click on the arrow we can see the list. Then when we select the EXT door list, the cells B7 to B12 will be highlighted. You have now defined a list that can be selected from anywhere in the workbook or can be used in formulas or other references. Next, select the cell where you want to enter the description for the item that will be taken off. So we can go to a new spreadsheet, for example. So this could be the sheet where we have our Excel, where we have our estimate processing. So in order to access the database, what we do is we click on the data menu, and it's on the top of it is an item at the top of the screen, and then we select the option validation. The data validation screen pops up, and under allow, click on the down arrow and select list from the available options. Under source, enter the name of the list that contains your selection options. Place the cursor in the source box and click. Click OK to complete the data validation. The down arrow for the pop-down list button will appear when you select the cell. Click on the arrow and the list of options will appear. Click on the preferred option and the description will automatically be entered into the cell. So we have clicked on D1 flush and it has appeared in the cell, and we remember we had created this in the database in a different spreadsheet. To copy the data validation to the rest of the cells, select the cell and move the cursor to the lower right hand corner of the cell. Click the corner and hold down the mouse button while you drag a copy of the cell to other cells. So this is the way of creating a database which can be accessed from other spreadsheets from the same Excel file. Creating a VLOOKUP. VLOOKUP, meaning vertical lookup, is one of Excel's most powerful and useful functions. This function allows a user to look up a value based on some input value. An estimator would want the spreadsheet to look up the unit of measure and the unit price depending on which option that we enter. So for example, we are going to input an option into cell B2, and so this spreadsheet has already been data validated, and so this is the database that we will be referring to. We have the list of items and also the height and width. So we go back to the spreadsheet, consider this as our estimation sheet, and then we have the drop down menu because it has been already data validated, and then we choose one of the items. So here we are choosing K16 panel. Now what we are going to use is we are going to use the function VLOOKUP to retrieve the height and width from the database that we created. So the format is, the lookup value and the table array. So we go back to the database sheet, and then when we select the entire array, and then we put in the column index number, and then we put the value false. So when we come back to the spreadsheet, we see that the value 2 has been retrieved from the database. So one of the things that we have to remember when we use VLOOKUP formula is that number one, we would need a specified value in the leftmost column. 2, a range or area that is to be named is to be there in the database. 3, a column offset from the leftmost column is needed. 4, a logical statement, or in other words, a true or false value has to be entered as the last part of the syntax. So next we will look at how to retrieve width from the database. So we use the VLOOKUP function again. We put in the equal to sign. We type in VLOOKUP. We can select it from the option that comes below. Then we have to go for the lookup value, and that is the K16 panel. And then we put comma. Then we have to choose a table array. And for that we go to the database that we created, and then we select the entire table array. And then we put in the column. Then we put 3 and then column and then false, which is the true or false that we had to choose. And so we see that this has retrieved the value 0.9 from the database. Let's check the database sheet. Okay, K16 panel has got 2, height is 2 and width is 0.9, and this is reflected in the main spreadsheet. Now we can perform operations on it. We can find the area. For that we put in the equal to sign, select C2, multiply, asterisk sign, then we go to the width, which is D2, 0.9, and then we press enter. So we have the area here. So this is a way to do a VLOOKUP function where we retrieve data from an existing database. And if we want to copy paste into other columns, what we do is we drag them down, and so and even for the height we can do the same thing. We drag them down. However, we need to make certain changes when we do the copy paste of VLOOKUP value. So what we do is we have to change in order to correct the value, we will put absolute reference in the formula by putting a $sign. And then we drag it down. And then we can change the items by clicking on from the drop-down menu. And we have D1 flush, and we see that the height and width have changed, and accordingly the area has also changed. So this is the way we do a VLOOKUP, and if we can similarly do it for other items in the list, and we see that it reflects a change in the height and width and also in the area. This is the VLOOKUP function. Nesting functions. Nesting functions allows you to insert at least 2 functions within one formula. A huge majority of nesting functions are used for conditional and if formulas. 1. Place a set of random numbers in cells C1 to C5 and D1 to D5. For this exercise, we are going to find the average of the numbers in cell C1 to C5 and D1 to D5. In a blank cell, type is equal to average, open bracket, max, open bracket, C1 colon C5, that's by selecting the entire column, close the bracket, comma, max, and then we open the bracket and select the column D1 to D5 and close the bracket. Close the bracket again. Press a enter key to get the answer. So here the max function is nested within the average formula. If conditions. You can add conditions to your spreadsheets that act like if statements. In this exercise, let's add a condition to cells C1 to D5. Highlight cells C1 to D5. Click the Conditional Formatting button in the Home tab on the ribbon. Select New Rule. The New Formatting Rule dialog box will appear. Pay close attention to the options in the box. You can set up a rule based on a cell value, duplicate values, and even use a formula to determine which cells to format. For this exercise, click on Format all cells based on their values. Select to color scale in the format style. Minimum choose number. Value 50, color red. Maximum choose number. Value 50. Color green. Click OK. What we are doing here is telling Excel if the values in each selected cell is fewer than 50, then fill it with red. If it is 50 or above, color the cell green. Change a cell with a number lower than 50 to 300. It should change into green. Next we look at if formulas. If formulas are set up to provide a true or false statement after a calculation is performed. With if statements, you can add multiple arguments to produce different results. First of all, in any blank cell, type is equal to if, bracket open, D1 less than or equal to 100, comma, quotes open, true, quotes closed, comma, quotes open again, false, quotes closed, bracket closed. Press the enter key to run the formula. So what we are doing here is creating an argument that if the number in the cell D1 is less than or equal to 100, then display is true. Display false if the number is in D1 is greater than 100. Now in any blank cell, type if D1 greater than 100, if, bracket open, D1 greater than 100, comma, quotes open, A, quotes closed, comma, if bracket open, D2 greater than 200, comma, quotes open, B, quotes closed, comma, if, bracket open, D3 greater than 300, comma, quotes open, C, quotes close, if, bracket open, D4 greater than 400, comma, quotes open, D, quotes closed, comma, quotes open, incomplete, quotes closed, and type in 4 closing brackets. This if statement is saying if the number in D1 is greater than 100, put A in the blank cell. If none of the argument is correct, put incomplete in the blank cell. In the cell with the formula, type 140 in cell D1. Change D1 to 14 and D2 to 411. You may notice that the argument will try to find the true statement before defaulting to the incomplete. We're now going to look at SUMIF function. The SUMIF function tells Excel to add only cells that meet criteria that you choose. For example, we have the budget of the month of January where we have spent money on different types of fruits. My aim would be to find what is the total expenditure on the fruit apple. So for that, we click on any blank cell, type SUMIF, select the range of cells, and then specify the particular criteria that I want to choose. Here it is apple, and we put it in quotes, and then we put comma, and then we look at the expenditure and we select the particular range, and then we do enter. So over here we can see that the amount spent on apple in the month of January, that is returned using the SUMIF function. Now we are going to use another function, SUMIFS, that is SUMIFS, and here I allow an extra criteria to the existing SUM function. So the way the syntax of this function is equal to SUMIFS, bracket open, then we select the sum range. Here it is the cost of the fruits. Then the criteria, what we want to, the second criteria, that is the names of fruits. And then we again specify the fruit that we want to look for, that is apple. And then the second criteria is that we want to find the expenditure before 15th January. And for this, we select the entire range, and then we put in the criteria less than 15 Jan 2021. We close the quotes and then we close the bracket and we press enter. So this value returns the expenditure on apple before 15th January. Creating a 3D reference to the same cell range on multiple worksheets. A reference that refers to the same cell or range of cells on multiple sheets is called a 3D reference. This is a very useful and convenient way to reference several worksheets that follow the same pattern and cells on each worksheet and containing the same type of data. What the condition here is that the location of the data should be in the same position in all the spreadsheets, as we can see on the sheets displayed. So how do we use the formula? We come back to a sheet called consolidation, then we then we type into an empty cell is equal to sum, open brackets, we select sheet 2 to sheet 6, an exclamation mark, then we select the range of cells A2 to A5 and we close the bracket. This gives the total sum of all the values which were entered from A2 to A5 in all the sheets from sheet 2 to sheet 6.